Peace be upon everybody. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect in his message. Aman. Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Tav. Anai Kofi. Mashalam Che. Kamsamida. Osayo, Ohio. I see you. Ni hao. Aquaba Etisen. Habari, Jambo, Mimi ni Kofi, Nina Franco, Katana Nwewe. Hello, I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice to the voices and speaking the unspoken. Thankful and grateful to be with you guys one more again and to get into some more of this word and or some of these messages that the Most High continues to give us. We're thankful to everybody who's on here. We give all honor and praise once again to Yahweh Elohim, the Most High. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. To SOC, to the ministerial staff, to the moderators, to the diaspora. Those are not part of the diaspora. Those that agree with us, disagree with us, whatever the case might be. We are appreciative of your presence on tonight. And hello to everybody. Shalom. How you doing, Lynette? How you doing, Minister Tamara, Big Ock, Minister Joseph, Cream _81, Miss Pierce, Big Brother Thomas, Sister Austral, B Moon, Coco. And all those who are coming on, we appreciate you so very much for being on. If I miss your name, charge it to my head and not to my heart. How you doing, Snet? Hello to everybody. Tonight, we're going to talk about a quote, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this person's name correctly or not. I believe it's Yevgeny Yevtushenko. And a quote that simply says, when the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. When the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. When the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. So beware, brothers and sisters, when people keep telling you to stop talking about something because you're rustling feathers. Be careful when people say things like, what happens in this family stays in this family, especially if it's some wild stuff that's happening behind these walls. Be afraid when you hear that somebody's done something and then all of a sudden you just randomly nothing happens, the person goes free, the other person has been paid off or whatever. When the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. How you doing, Uno? And this is why a lot of people, a lot of us specifically, are starting to say, hey, enough is enough. You keep telling us to be silent about this, not bring this up, not worry about this, not like this, not talk about this, etc. And really, you're asking for us to be silent. Why are you asking us to be silent about that which is seen? If it's right in front of our face and it's killing folk, then we starting to ask questions. And when you say don't ask any questions, then we got to figure that out. As many of us have, right? We started asking questions in our assemblies, and people said, "Oh no, why are you asking questions about that?" God says this, and God said that, and the pastor said that. It's like, okay, I can't, I see something's not right, and I'm asking questions, and I'm questioning based off of the things that you guys are telling me to read, but you guys want us to remain silent. See, I could see even if you're wrong, I'd have more respect for you saying, this is why I stand up for this is what we believe in. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. How you doing, Sister Round? If I didn't say so already as well. Right. But when somebody just says outright, ignore what you see. See, this year we're looking beyond what we see, right? In 2023, we're going to look beyond what we see. But in 2023, a lot of people are going to continue to ignore what they see. Yeah, especially when it's pertaining to us as a people, right? Our sisters are crying out, saying that they aren't treated correctly. And everybody says, pipe down, get in your place. Why do you want her to be silent? But the truth is replaced by silence. The silence is a lie. Silence here can be lukewarm, in between. We're not going to quite tell you the truth, but we're not going to quite admit it's a lie either. How you doing, Henry? How you doing, Sister Sharice? Thanks for being part of the community. Is it run it? I don't know how to pronounce it. Runata or Runata B4. I can see the whole thing. Yeah, people get angry when you ask questions, right? It's okay when you were silent about Jesus looking like Cesare Borgia, but then when you said Yashua looks like us, and all of a sudden, hey, be quiet, right? How you doing, Ladybug? There's such thing as hush money. We'll pay you off as long as you don't say anything about what's real. Hush your mouth. It will pay you. Hush your mouth, and we'll go ahead and give you the whole world. You'll lose your soul in the process, but just hush up and you can make some money. Why would you want to rock the boat? Family members coming. Why would you want to rock the boat? The diaspora comes to you. Why would you want to speak on something? Just be quiet. We know that that's what's going on, but we try to get paid here. Yep. When you ask questions, yet they want silence. Yeah. And by the way, is not scientific notation, are not scientific experiments, are not scientific observations supposed to be things based off of what? I see it, so I ask about it. And when I ask about it, then I put an experiment together. Supposedly, the experiment is supposed to help me to find out what the answer to my question. How you doing? Is it Tamir Zarai? I hope I said that correctly. Uh, and hello to everybody who's coming on. Shalom to everybody. Peace. Not sure what's happened 100% yet. So we're hanging in there. But thank you guys for continue keeping that family lifted up in prayer. Um, how you doing, Elion? So yeah, we have to start asking ourselves, see, because when I see silence, see, watch this. If I'm doing one thing over here, watch this. Like if I read something over here and I see that this is what comes next, but there's nothing in between, there's silence. I'm trying to figure out what's in the silence, because whatever's not notated, they'll tell me what happened here. How you doing, Lamar Floyd? They'll tell me what happened here, but in between, there's nothing. That's when I start saying, oh, I need to question what's going on. Hey, teacher, preacher, leader, senator, whatever your title is, mom, dad, even, right? Brother, sister, child, parent, right? Where's the silent? Why is that silent right there? Why is it that there's, for some people, Mansa Musa and in 1619? Why is it 1492 but 1619? What happened in, why is it 1492 Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but why is it in 1493 there's a doctrine of discovery by the Pope, in 1491 the last Moorish Empire of Spain is taken over? Why is it a couple generations before that there's the Crusades? See, in the silence, you start finding the truth. Why don't we talk about that? Why do people talk about the Tudors but never tell you about King Henry and how he became the first pope? Why is there silence about that? The first pope of Protestants, that is. Why is it Roman Catholic Church? Why do you tell people that the first pope was Peter, but Peter was married, and the Bishop of Rome didn't get power from Justinian until the 400s, and they didn't even make the Justinian decree to make it official until 538 AC? Why is it that the Bible talks about 1,260 years later, but you don't tell us that 1,260 years later after that, the Pope died, yet somehow he came into being? Right, quiet. Something's up. See, I look for the silence, because the silence shows the incompletion. If it's truth, it should be complete, should it not be? And if it's incomplete, it should be because we're having a tough time establishing truth, not just because we won't touch the truth. How you doing, Army of Diamonds? Shalom to you. We got to start asking ourselves, why are we clearly seeing that there's silence here, yet we won't talk about the silence? Why are we seeing, why is everybody silent? Or maybe we're just not aware of it enough to speak on it, but why don't we talk about stuff about how, hey, wait a minute, like, why are we still whipping children? Like slave masters whip people, and when we say I whip you because I love you, we used to have to do that when they would force, the person, the slave who had the top hat, or even the family members who didn't want to see their children get jacked up real bad. They'd step in and they whip you because they loved you, because even though they're whipping you, is better than the slave master whipping you. And we say the same thing. I'm gonna whip you now. I'm gonna whip you. I don't mind spanking, but whipping your child. I'm gonna whip you now. I'm gonna smack the black off you now. I'm gonna beat the black off you. That was a psychological term. We're silent about it, so we don't even study it. How you doing, Minister Moselle? Yeah, very wrong, right? How you doing, Cameron? Thanks for being part of the community over here, right? Like, I'm gonna whip you because I love. I'm gonna smack the black off you. All this stuff. It used to be the father of Western theology. I mean, sorry, theology. The father of Western psychology said that you needed to beat the slaves and beat them to the white meat. You know how you say, I'm gonna beat you to the white meat show? He said you had to beat black folk to the white meat showed up, because the white showed, because he said basically the reason why we are black is because we are crazy, we are terrible, we are bad people, we have nothing of value, and so since we've gone insane, we become blacker. So when you beat them and you see the white meat, he said you're actually beating them into a place to where they start losing their insanity. But what was insanity for us? Insanity for us was stuff like drapetomania, where they said that if you tried to run away as a slave, that you were crazy. What you say? Whippings are history, his story. They want to forget, so it gets repeated. Yeah, you just understand the context of not whipping our children, but how should we discipline? Well, that's why I said I don't mind people spanking their children. Spanking is different than whipping. Whipping is like, I don't know, we be bragging about this stuff, but whipping is stuff, like we talk about how people got extension cords taken and whipped, or how you had to go out to that tree, and you had to make sure you got the right thing to get whipped with. And if you didn't get the right thing, then you was gonna get whipped even harder if it broke or something, or if it wasn't great enough, or they might braid it together so that they could whip you even harder. Or people who got hit with frying pans and stuff like that, or people who, like people who got punched and things like that. Like there's discipline, sure, and there's even physical discipline, but then right, but then whipping to a place to where, like, people literally be, I'm gonna whip you till you can't sit down for what? What about our culture declares that that's righteous? And what about our culture? See, what about, or the lack thereof of our culture has caused us to get to a place to where your child can't listen to your words or can't see your example. They can only listen to the through the air as they feel the lash. Right. Yeah, never spank a child in anger. I'll be honest, I did it once or twice. Felt bad as soon as I've done it. Had to apologize, you know, really wanted, but I couldn't establish that, but really wanted even for them to take revenge and whip me or like hit me real bad. Cause, and I didn't go overboard, but still to do, I see, I come from a place where I've seen overboard, I felt overboard. But what I'm saying is overall, before we just make this a thing about whipping, I'm trying to say silence. Oh yeah, a pop can be a must. A pop is different, right? Than, you know, come to find out later, child have a limp and stuff. I mean, people go crazy, but obviously that's extreme. What I'm saying is there's a lot of silence. How you doing, Deja, by the way, and how you doing, her 3802? How you doing, Tisha Tisha Ya Ayers? I hope I said that correctly. To figure out what they're doing and figure out why they are doing what they are doing or saying. Mm. So my children know their consequences for all the actions that are positive and negative, for sure. Yeah. And how you doing, Ty Breezy? But yeah, but what I'm saying is overall, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of stuff we're silent about. And when the truth is replaced by silence, then what? The silence is a lie. Oh, how it's justified. People say, yeah, I was whipped and I turned out all right. Yeah, I mean, you might have turned out all right. You might not have turned out all right, though, if you feel like you got to whip somebody else. But once again, right, and how you doing, Shabbos? Like, we have to get to a place where, once again, like a lot of stuff, there's silence there. There are people that are silent about their behavior, the behavior of those that are around you, just silent. Let people get away with whatever. Silence. And how you doing, babe? My wife is on, the Honorable Maya. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. See, sometimes we're even silent about the way we treat one another or the way people treat people. We're silent about it. We just let it go on. That's my friend. That's my boo. I known him since high school. That's my family member. That's my coworker. That's just how I am. No, why are we silent about that? Of course, the behavior is going to continue. Of course, the behavior is going to continue. The behavior is going to continue because you're silent. People don't follow the law. Big silence. Don't follow the law. See, a lot of the discipline and stuff like that, if we just had law present, we would have our right to not have to deal with a lot of that stuff protected. Yeah, a lot of us, I was just saying I've made that mistake before too, Barry. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing those things? You said you can't hear? Can somebody, because when I try to type in, it doesn't let me type in stuff on my own live. It's weird. Can somebody type in to my wife, if you don't mind, that I said check the Bluetooth? She might be connected to the Bluetooth. I don't think she can hear. She's trying to ask why she can't hear. Okay, okay. Now you're on. Okay, cool. Okay, you can hear. Cool, cool, cool. You said we have to unlearn ourselves sometimes when we aren't seeing healthy results. Very true. You said yeah, and that's a great point. See, a lot of people want you to be silent, to become ignorant, to remain ignorant, or for the next generation to be ignorant, or people who would judge those people. We want to make sure that they are ignorant as well, right? So a lot of people, for example, right, go to why do I always forget the name of this park? Famous park, New York. Y'all help me out. Famous park in New York. I don't even remember the name. I've been there several times in my life, even as a child and even as an adult. Famous park in New York. Somebody help me out. Central Park. Thank you. Central. Right. So Central Park. Central Park is Seneca Falls. Right. Something that we as a people established. But maybe if you know where to look, you might run into the sign that tells you that, but they won't tell you that basically that was something we established. And then all of a sudden they basically took over, kicked people out, killed people. And then basically, actually, there's two parks if you look close, right? If you find out, I forget what the second park is called off the top of my head, but it was actually a park where the water is now that's next to Central Park. They flooded that one as they do many different places. And then they made Central Park, right? And they tell you why black people are terrible in Central Park, hence the Central Park Five, right? That they blame for something they didn't do. And Donald Trump, made all that headway of people saying, yeah, he supports this white rhetoric. He did that. He was starting that way back when. But in Central Park or whatever, that was originally Seneca Falls. So you got two cities next to each other that are these big tourist attractions in complete silence, literally one place silenced by water. Now, we're not saying that everybody's evil to talk about. We're not saying if your ancestors did it, you have to be evil. But you know what turns into evil? When you want people to be silent about it. Like if my father did bad things and somebody calls my father out for it, yeah, you know what? He did bad things. I'm gonna be the curse breaker. But for sure. How you doing, Chrissy? Thanks for being part of the community. So yeah, he might have done bad things, but sure. I'll be the curse breaker. But yeah, I'll admit, boom, boom, boom. Of course. If you say there's bad things I did in my life, oh yeah. Like probably even worse than what you know. I've come a mighty long way with the help of Ravak Hakodash. I, Yashfa, Yahava. I've come a really mighty, mighty long way. However, I'm not, yeah, I did those things. Now, the truth of the matter is, though, now that I'm not silent about it, truth of the matter is that I'm better than what I used to be. I'm better than those who came before me in certain areas. Some areas I'm trying to become as great as they were. Even some of those terrible things you're going to call out about some of those people, they also did some great things you don't know about. But truth be told, now that we got that out the way, now that we're gonna talk about it, let's talk about the whole thing. See, I've been delivered from some things. That in court, people use scripture to say, "Spare the rod, spoil the child," instead of the rod as guidance, like the shepherd. Yeah, well, there's the staff, and there's the rod, right? The staff is actually let's go in this direction. The rod is for correction. And so there's times when the shepherd does discipline the sheep. Matter of fact, there's when you see the shepherd that had the sheep around his neck, the sheep was actually around the shepherd's neck because the shepherd might make a slight, like fracture to the sheep's ankle if it keeps trying to, or sheep, well, what we would call ankle. I don't know if they call it ankle, but to the sheep's leg, if the sheep kept trying to run away because the sheep kept getting in danger and the shepherd couldn't take care of the other flock. So he put him on his neck after that. So as the sheep healed, he would have to get fed and he would have to be around, or she would have to be around while he was giving commands. And so the sheep would see from his shoulders, from his point of view, and would go, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. When you say go left, that's why we need to go left. When you say go right, that's why we need to go right. So that when the sheep was healed, it would be able to now follow the directions of the shepherd and always be under the protection. Obviously, I'm not saying we should do that with our children. Our children are not animals, nor are we. However, what I'm saying is, is overall, like, there's, well, that's how that goes. Back to get to the got back to get into what our main point is today. How you doing, Kobe? You know, we have to be in a position to realize there's a lot of stuff that we are silent about. Sometimes silent out of ignorance, but a lot of times, right? A lot of times we have to be real. We have to be honest. We have to comprehend what's really going on. We have to be honest about the fact that there's a lot of different things. How you doing, Smoker Chronicles? There's a lot of different things that we're involved with. Um, and we're silent about it. And we gotten so silent, it's at a point now to where it's the silence has begun to scream. Have you ever noticed like you can be silent about it so long that now it's like it feels like what's that what's that? It's the rate. I don't know what the poem. And thank you for the love. I don't know what the poem by Edgar Allan Poe is called, but the one where it's quote the raven nevermore, and they have the heart at one point, and it's beating like it's coming from the floor. He can hear like this thing that's coming from the ground. This thing reminded him of what he's done, right? And he's trying to get rid of it, but it's supposed to be silent. It's supposed to be buried, but because it's still there, even though it's buried, it's still there. Even though somebody tried to throw dirt on it, it's still there. But because of the silence becomes deafening. You ever heard that saying that the silence is deafening? It's like what I wouldn't give to get rid of the silence. Can I hear something else? Right? The silence is literally getting to a place. And that's what people are starting to talk about. They're like, hey, it's a telltale heart. Okay, sorry about that. I apologize. I thought there was a part in that Raven thing where he was talking about, or is that the name of it? Telltale Heart? I'm not even sure. Okay, that's the name of the poem. Okay, thanks, babe. I apologize. Yeah. So, but that like there's stuff screaming at us at this point to where we can't leave this alone. And anybody telling you, right, if you're supposed to heal, but somebody says you got to be silent about it, that's when you start to have anxiety. That's when you start having heart attacks, right? It's not even healthy for us, not even physically healthy. How you doing, Minister Sonia? It's not even physically healthy for us. You hear what I'm saying? It is not even physically healthy for us, right? And once again, it is not even physically healthy for us to roll like that. It's not. It's not healthy at all for us to hold stuff in or be silent about something. Somebody listening today, something happened to you long time ago when you were a child and stuff, but you were told to hold down and you've gotten to a place to where you're starting to like have vision problems and you're starting to be anxious and you don't even want to go outside and this and that. Like I could go back to the trauma of chattel slavery. That's almost too easy nowadays to do. But what about the trauma that's happened to people that we've been silent about? Literally, people were not allowed to leave their homes. You were in prison. Like, are we going to talk about that at some point? How you doing, Sister Ellen? Are we going to talk about that at some point? Like, literally, you were in prison. You couldn't leave. How you doing, brother TJ? You can buy something from the store unless you limited what you bought from the store. Like that was recent, right? Nobody's really talked about that though. Like there's trauma that just happened. A lot of you got shots, not because you even knew if you needed it or not. And even if you felt you needed it, I'm not here to argue that point right now. But a lot of people got shots because they were just like, well, like I'm not going to be allowed to do something. So you were forced into something. A lot of you didn't get shots, and your reward for it, even though like you should have the freedom to do what you will, your reward for it was they tried to take your job. That just right. That just happened recently. A lot of people got divorces because they never knew what marriage was, and now they had to actually be a husband or a wife because they had to live with their husband or wife. Before you lived everywhere else, and then you just happen to sleep at home. So you don't have to look this person in the eye all day, and you can pretend just like you do when you date. Because a lot of people they have a dating mentality, but not a marriage mentality. But now, oh, we got to be married, and we got to have fruit out of the marriage, and we got to actually be qualified for this marriage that we said we're qualified for. Ooh, I don't know if I can handle this. We're silent about it though. Divorce rate was already at 51%. Then it went up to 75%. Who knows what it's at now? Hopefully it's gone back down some. Silence, right? But they're saying, please go out to the store and make sure you're buying these Christmas gifts. Make sure you go out to Black Friday sale. Make sure you go to this. Make sure you go to that. Just cover it up, because we need to make sure the economy gets going. If the economy gets going, then you'll be okay. And if the economy keeps going and you can go ahead and toil for somebody else again, then you'll be okay. Hey, why are you guys staying at home? I know you guys feel like you're having the same lifestyle you did when you were coming to the job because you weren't making enough money anyway. But hey, come on back. If the economy starts working, just get over it. Just get over it. See, we're silent. Yeah, people make fun of marriage and covenant. And I'm not even saying you have to be married to the state. People are absolutely right. You shouldn't enter into a contract with the government just to be able to have sex. That's what marriage with the state is, right? Anything that comes out of your labor, out of your fruit, when you guys labor in the bedroom together, the state says that we have a right to be able to have something to say about that person or that fruit, right? But when silence, once again, when the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. What happened? We're so glad everybody went out and got vaccines. If you guys didn't get vaccine, the world would have never been what it was supposed to be. We made it because you guys went out and got a shot. Question for you. Even though you're probably exaggerating the statistics, which companies do to make sure that they think that that we should uplift the company and buy more things from them. But even with your exaggerating, you say at max, you say that there were 1 billion people that got the shot. That means one out of every 8 people got the shot. Is that a minority or majority, y'all? We know that's a minority, right? 1/8. I don't have a calculator handy. Can somebody do me a favor and divide the number 1 by the number 8 and tell me what you get? Point whatever, whatever, whatever. Because it's going to be under 20%, right? 2/8 would be actually 2/8 would be 25%, but it's going to be under 20%, whatever it is. Oh, sorry. Amen, Sister Deja. That's 0.125. So that's 12.5%. Thank you. So 12.5%, supposedly 12.5% of the entire planet. Now they don't really know how many people are on the planet, and they're going by Western statistics. That's empirical data. So empirical data, means the empire tells you what it is, and that's so. Whenever somebody says, "Give me empirical data," what they're saying is, "Tell me what white people think from the social or colonial construct." And thank you guys. Yeah. So 12.5% or 0.125, right? So you're telling me that 12.5% of the planet, at the most, 12.5% of the planet, so you say, got the shot. And that saved the entirety of the planet? We're just going to be silent about that and say that that makes sense. That means more than likely, more people have come into contact with COVID, didn't get a shot. More than likely what happened, I can't say this without doing some more research and seeing what people have to say about this too, even though it'd probably be based off of empirical data anyways, which is kind of, might make what I'm saying a moot point to a certain degree. However, if I go back to that same empirical data and I look at it, I'm probably going to find, just going off of the mindset, that thought process, I'm probably going to find pretty easily that there's probably at least 12.5% other people on the planet that caught COVID. Probably more. It's probably going to be like closer to 30% or something like that. That you say, at least according to your statistics, called COVID. Now, COVID, by the way, just meant that you had symptoms. So nobody knows if you actually had it or not. In most cases, in very few cases, did they actually say we know 100% it's COVID. That's the way stuff works, by the way. If somebody says you have cancer, there's a list of 12 things, or 12, 20, 30 things that you might have. And doctors will look, and if you have 4 or 5, 6 of those symptoms, they'll say, we think you probably have cancer. They don't know. They label it as that, right? If we teach, like if you're teaching first aid, CPR, something like that. Let's say you're doing first aid or CPR. You look for symptoms. So if somebody's left arm is hurting, they might be having a heart attack, but if their left arm is hurting, might not be a heart attack. You might want to ask other questions. If somebody's having problems speaking and their left arm is hurting, maybe. If somebody's clutching their chest, breathing heavy, and then their left arm is doing that stuff, then you go, oh, okay, all those together, heart attack, right? Then you might look for baby aspirin, or you might be ready, if necessary, to do some CPR. You probably get some first aid. You probably call as soon as possible after giving the baby aspirin, et cetera, right? right? You have to ask yourself that. You have to ask yourself why we are silent about that. Some things don't make sense, but we're silent. We're silent about the fact that we're lied to quite often. I try to use this as something to be foundational quite often, but all I won't say all of us because some people say I never thought that. So okay, but many of us, a heavy majority of us, were raised believing that George Washington was the first president of the United States of America. Lie. Many of us were raised thinking that slavery was something that happened 1860 to 1865 when the Civil War technically started at the Revolutionary War because they were fighting because people who wanted to be slave owners didn't want to go ahead and pay taxes. If you pay taxes, they know you're going to debt. If you go into debt, you become a slave. They didn't want to become a slave to the system. They had never paid taxes before, and now they kept forcing them or trying their best to make them pay taxes over and over and over again. And half the country wanted to remain Englishmen. But what were you raised on? We fought against the evils of the British Empire. You were the British Empire. You were Englishmen, right? How you gonna fight against what you are? You didn't fight against it till King George got tired of George Washington and all them cats who were riling people up. And all by the way, all these founding fathers that you guys heard about, y'all might not know it, but they tried to write King George a letter to say, "Hey, please stop! Don't try to come to kill us." King George wasn't having it. He didn't listen to it. They kept on pushing and pushing through. So once they realized they were going to have to fight no matter what, or they were going to like they had two choices: either they died and they let everybody remain Englishmen and go on with their lives, or they fought, they riled up the people, and they tried to take on what the original American was. Because remember, by definition, an original American is a copper colored person indigenous to the Americas. So they do a tea party, they put on blackface, they say they take the stuff that they scalped off of our ancestors and they say, okay, now I'm the native. Now I'm the indigenous person. Now I'm the copper cut. Literally put blackface on their face, a lie, and said, "Now we're Americans." So they didn't realize to shut down. People read, studied, and found out more truths. I mean, that was an incredible miscalculation, right? Said we don't even know how to stay healthy, and the meds that they have us taking killing us quicker at most death, right? So like all this stuff, like they didn't. Why didn't they tell you that the doctrine of discovery, the lost cause, the white man's burden, Darwinism, and manifest destiny, all are part of the same thing? How many of you even know some of the stuff I was talking about? Charles Darwin's book, right? Like so first of all, let's go in order. Doctrine of discovery. The Pope in 1452 started using this term doctrine of discovery. And after 1491, when the Moors got defeated in Spain, and Spain asked for permission to get slaves, in 1492, they allowed Christopher Columbus to sail the ocean blue. In 1493, they made the doctrine of discovery official. What is the doctrine of discovery? Because what people will say, how can you discover a land that people live on? Because you weren't taught how they work, how that law works, or how that legal works, that legalism, legalese, if you will. The doctrine of discovery says that if you were basically not a white male who is a Roman Catholic and they find your land, they discovered it. Plain and simple. You learned all of it in high school. Okay, I never had anybody tell us that in high school. So you will bless somebody. I'm just, not coming against you. I'm legit. Like you will bless somebody. A lot of us had to find that out later on. Now they didn't teach you that, right? But then after the doctrine of discovery, why didn't they teach you about the white man's burden? You ever heard of the white man's burden? Where it is the white man's burden to ensure. Hear what I'm saying? Literally, the white man's burden. You can look it up for yourself. How you doing, Sister Shima? It is the white man's burden to make sure that everybody lives like he does. So that's why you deal with a lot of people, and I'm using white by the colonial, the social construct, of course. But that's why you hear people like, "Oh man," you've heard people be like, "Man, we don't really want to do this, but it's our burden. But we need to colonize these savages." By the way, in the Declaration of Independence, they talk about you. They call you a savage. And if they don't talk about that side of the diaspora, they talk about you. They call you bond. They call you a slave. Right. Then after that, we're gonna get there in a second, right? Then we can keep on going. We can look at so we got the white man's burden. Then we can look at the Darwinism, which really comes around the same time as the lost cause, or right before it. So Darwinism basically comes. Now we think Darwinism is just about evolution, but see, you never just read the title of the book. Read the book, and you'll be blown away. But once again, we don't consider the culture. of it, right? What comes after? So when we talk about Darwinism, Darwin, 1859, right? There's a book that's put out, very famous book, and a book that's not really going to be used in America till 1963. Places in like Russia and maybe people in Germany and other places who are doing some horrible things as well throughout the story of mankind that nobody talks about. But or even people like in Belgium, doing what they did, Leopold, the first, second, and third, even though the second was the worst one. But then you have what? You have Darwinism. Darwinism, basically, the name of his book is The Origin of Species, the theory of evolution by natural selection, or right, the favored races in the struggle for life. And then when you look in parentheses, it says it's supported by kingdoms, by kings, by royalty. It's supported by those who are supposed to be geological in profession, and it also says it's supported by those who are Linnaean. Now, who is Carl Linnaeus? Carl Linnaeus is the one who started telling everybody that the white race was on top, black people were on the bottom, and then put red people and yellow people in the middle. But we don't even talk about that. Why don't we talk about that? Then right after that, you got the lost cause. Oh, don't forget about the lost cause. The lost cause were the daughters of the Confederacy, the daughters, the wives, the sisters, etc., the granddaughters, even of those who were part of the Confederacy, started spending money that they had left over. When you think that they taught you in school, the South lost and everybody became poor. No, 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 no. They still had money and they still had prestige, and they were going around, and they started changing the history up. They even told President Jefferson Davis to change his story up. Because remember, Jefferson Davis said that he was going to leave before everybody started leaving. He became president because he gave a famous speech in 1860 saying, hey, like, Lincoln's coming and he about to mess this stuff up. So you know what? We want to keep our slaves. We're going to roll out. And a whole bunch of states left. And when they left, they told you why they left. The burden of proof is not on us. It's on those that came before us. And we can listen to their story, right? And they can say, oh, okay, like, so we see the story up clear. Their story is what? Oh, okay, like, we're leaving because we believe. Matter of fact, certain places said that they believe that the slave and the master, right, or the bond and the free, they would call it, but the slave and the master both got the same thing out of slavery for one another. They both benefited, is what they said. They believe, other people said they believed that it was ordained by God, the same God that helped them to write the Declaration of Independence, and said that if anybody tries to tell them how to live, then they should go ahead and make sure that they take up arms and they create their own country. Interesting, though, that the people who wear raise the Confederate, what they call Confederate flags, technically the Confederate jacks, because the flag is the whole thing. When they wave those jacks, that's when they started building those statues. Y'all think those statues came out during the Civil War? Those statues came out in late 1800s, in the 1920s, Jim Crow stuff, and then it came out in the 1960s again. And now, wild enough, those statues and those flags, they came right back out in the 2000s, didn't they? We think those things came out from the war. No, when the Daughters of the Confederacy and others who they inspired said, yeah, we want to make sure that our story is represented. His story. It's not our story. It's not the story, but their story, his story. They said his story should be represented. So they started putting up this stuff. That's why when these statues are pulled down, when they hit the ground, you notice that these statues break apart. If a statue is a real statue, it don't break like that. But they paid just enough money. They paid cheap money for the statues. So the statues weren't really well made. They were just great enough that they could make it through certain things. But if they hit the ground, they fall apart because they aren't even of value. Like, they weren't even made well. They were made very quickly to put up to give you a false sense of his story now, or a false sense of your story. You would believe his story over your story. But everybody's silent about that. Once again, when the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. Say, even though they lost, they put up monuments to show you where they were. Yeah. And even make up where they were. It used to be if you went to General Robert E. Lee's home, right? Because they make monuments and shrines so they can worship these slave masters, and they put them on your money and everything still. And and they even turned Sioux Nation into a place where people go to Mount Rushmore to look at these slave masters and all this stuff, right? Stonewall Jackson, all this stuff. Same people who made Stonewall Jackson, by the way, made the Mount Rushmore. So it don't matter if you're in the North or the South, they both believe in slavery, right? Right? If we're silent about it, or we're just ignorant about it. But see, when I see silence, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me the same German cat who came over and agreed with slavery and made Stonewall Jackson is the same cat that you guys got to start the work on Mount Rushmore? We've talked about that before, Raquel. We could talk about that some more, if we're led that way. But in all honesty, yeah, we talk about that quite often, and we've actually shown the paperwork. I don't have it on my phone anymore, so I can't just pull it up. But we talked about that. How you have, um, you know, you have to realize that Jewish slave masters wrote out that they had Hebrew slaves. They made a demarcation between themselves and their slaves. So that in and of itself, let alone if you want to talk about that, it talks about Hebrew people, Ifrit people who left and went to places in West Africa and were not just scattered only, in 70 AC, when Rome came into Israel, but also were scattered and went over to places like we call Negro land and stuff, or even became Igbo and married into those tribes. Places like Sierra Leone as well. If you go to Ghana as well, you can go all the way down to South Africa as well. Right, you can go to Central Africa, you can go over to Kush, obviously. Kemet, if you look for Kemetic people instead of Egyptian people, because a lot of people look for Egyptian instead of Kemetic people. So yeah, we could definitely talk about that right in front of our face, right? But we still, real quick to go back. So we talked about what the doctrine of discovery. We talked about white man's burden. Talked about Darwinism, right? And then we talked about what after that, the lost cause. But then don't forget, we called it a five piece. We actually did a whole thing on it. We called it a five piece. Don't forget the fifth part of that five piece. When you buy that five piece, right? If you want to make sure you enjoy the five piece when you get it, know all the ingredients and everything. Well, make sure that fifth piece, because that fifth piece after that is called manifest destiny. Manifest destiny. They took all that stuff and then they said, okay, we have a right to make sure that now everything from on the Americas, from the eastern shore to the western shore, what you would call from sea to shining sea, everything in there should look like us. So they sing a song and you think it's your song because you think that everything's supposed to be about you, but you're not considered to be people. When it talks about we the people of the United States, it ain't talking about you, because people by law is a group of people. It's a nation. And if you're not part of that nation, and I'm sorry to tell you, if you were a poor white man, you weren't part of that nation either. I'm sorry to tell you, but if you were a white woman, you're right, you weren't really part of that nation, right? Even stuff as far as how when you could even have bank accounts, and if you got married, your husband got to take over everything, and you had to take on his debt and all this different stuff. And there were many places. Right now, there were places even in New York, if we be honest, before even the Revolutionary War in the United States of America, they actually didn't allow women to start getting out of some of that stuff. So they realized the foolishness of it a lot earlier than what a lot of us think that they did, or what we were taught they did. But still, there was, women were mistreated. They couldn't vote, obviously, right? Chattel slavery existed, so we already know what time it is with that. They already called you savages in the Declaration of Independence, right? But you get to this thing, manifest destiny, everything from sea to shining sea in the Americas, it belongs to us. So put those together: doctrine and discovery, white man's burden, Darwinism, lost cause, and then manifest destiny. And then guess what they did after that? After all that, then they basically just listed you. If you want the five piece, here's your biscuit. You got the five piece of the biscuit. I know a lot of you get a two piece of the biscuit. Today you're gonna get fed real well. You got a five piece of the biscuit. After the five piece, then here's the biscuit for you. Then they said all of y'all are slaves, unless you know that you don't have to be a U.S. citizen. See, because citizen in the Constitution before the 14th Amendment, everything was an uppercase C. After that, everything became a lowercase c. And because we don't know how law works, we don't even realize. See, that's why it says in the word, you don't change one jot or tittle. Matthew chapter 5, verse 18, they changed one little character. They changed one thing from uppercase to lowercase. They literally were saying you were uppercase as a human being, now you're lowercase. All of y'all are slaves. And nobody caught it because everybody was silent about it. When the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. Right. Like all that right in front of us. All of that right in front of us. You see that? All of that right in front of us. And yet, because we don't care about law, see how important law is? Kingdom law, marital law, universal law, natural law, all these laws we talk about, right? Substantive law, public, private law, etc. Many other laws that we could discuss. All they had to do was change one letter and the size of the letter, and we didn't even realize they took you out. All they had to do, remember, when you were freed, right? When General Sherman said y'all can go ahead and have territory and stuff of your own, when they gave you the Freedmen Bank, to help break the back of Confederacy so that the Confederacy couldn't stand again. Lincoln dies because he's trying to get them greenbacks. Southern vice president becomes the president. Andrew Johnson, he has no backbone. And so they basically use him to be able to reestablish everything because they were going to be treated like nothing. And now they can just keep their riches and do everything they were doing, and they can reestablish chattel slavery in different ways. And next thing you know, the 14th Amendment shows up. 14th Amendment or 13th Amendment shows up. Now, Lincoln helped with the 13th Amendment, we'd be honest, but 13th Amendment shows up, right? That says what? 13th Amendment shows up that says that you can still be a chattel slave. We just have to arrest you first. So then you have all these laws that start popping up that don't make sense. They make sense when you really know what they're doing, but don't make sense on their face. Like, wait a minute, this guy stole some candy because he wasn't eating. So since he stole the candy to eat the candy, right, we're gonna put him in a work enslavement camp, and he's gonna go back to the same plantation that he's freed from, and he's gonna do that for the rest of his natural life. Or we're going to make up IDs and we're going to tell you what a Negro is, because people don't even know Negro, which is a combination of everybody. If you were Native, or if you were African, or if you were anything in between, if we said you were a Negro, you're a Negro just because of the color of your skin. So technically we can't arrest you because of the color of your skin. We can't enslave you, but if we arrest you for something, and hey, we got all these laws for these Negroes out here, we're just going to arrest them and put them back in prison. Never had a prison industrial complex before. Now all of a sudden you got it jumping up all over the place, but you didn't need one. You had slavery. Why would you need a prison industrial complex when you just make them slaves? All right. At some point, who doesn't want to come out of this wicked system? All we got to do is arrest you. And so people don't want to talk about slavery. But once again, see, in that silence, you don't realize you become a slave. See, when you became free and you had that land, you weren't even considered to be black, Negro, colored, and definitely not now. They've added on in the last, what, 40 years or 50 years, African American. You used to be called a freedman. You know, your people used to be called freedmen. So they, wherever they were, the land belonged to them. They were not even a United States citizen. They were freedmen. They were free of the system. General Sherman saw to that because he honored what four pastors told him when they said, "We don't want anything from you. We don't want this. We would just like some land where we can teach our people our ways." And they said, "Wow." And General Sherman, who when you read what he said about black people after he gave us 40 acres and a mule, right? He still was honest, and he was like, "Yeah, I think black people are not as intelligent. They don't deserve anything. They don't deserve what we get." He did that because he wanted to break the back of the Confederacy. He was even a Southern man when he fought for the Union. He was from the South. I forget, not Texas, but somewhere down south. I don't know if it's Mississippi, Louisiana, somewhere. I don't know, but he was from the South. They made you freemen. Meanwhile, they tell you that when the Confederacy was defeated by the United States of America, they told you that the Confederacy died, didn't you? You think that the Confederacy's dead. You don't think that the Confederacy exists anymore, do you? Which, by the way, the Confederacy was never lawful because no nation ever gave recognized them as sovereign. So you know, sovereignty comes down. So you have to follow laws that are above you. Somebody above you has to approve your sovereignty. Nobody ever did any business with the South, as far as like business, as far as like official business on paper that would make them sovereign. Nobody would come out. The Pope even kind of sort of defended the South, but he wouldn't come out right and say, yes, we believe that you're sovereign. They thought that's why there's a thing. Some of y'all have eaten and worn and done stuff with King Cotton brand on it. King Cotton. That's why they called it King Cotton. King Cotton, Cotton was king, and they said King Cotton. They even wrote songs. Heck, I even played when I used to play, you know, in classical music even, and we would play marches. And when you would play a march, you would play some of the stuff. And there's one march, I think it's even by Salsa. Is it by Salsa or Sousa? Or somebody else, might be Sousa, right? So many of them, it's hard to not. Sometimes I accidentally give him credit for marches he didn't write. But there's a song, he probably didn't write this one because he was a union. He was in the union. But there's a song called King Cotton, a march song. Daughters of the Confederacy we're talking about, yeah, Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, all over the place. Right. But they had King Cotton, because they believed that hey, nobody's going to support the North because everybody's cotton. It comes from us. Yeah, he was a Marine, even though he wasn't a Marine, but you know, he was hired to be in the war and make music and stuff. Right. So why is everybody silent about this? How you doing, Minister Shante? You said we can yell the Confederates Or tell the Confederates because they make specialty tags here in Alabama still being purchased. Yeah. And once again, those aren't flags. Those are just the Confederate jacks. They don't even wave the flag. When they say that's the rebel flag, it's not the rebel flag. By the way, once again, they weren't even a real Confederacy, right? You know that like they actually got their flag from an actual recognized Confederacy. You call them the Iroquois, actually originally known as the Haudenosaunee. Several tribes that came together. Go look at the Haudenosaunee flag or the Iroquois flag, the original flag. The actual flag, I think they still wave, matter of fact. Go look at it and you'll discover same thing. They just took it from them because they were, like just like I told you that the United States they started calling themselves Americans because the original American was a copper colored person indigenous to the Americas. What do? They have a Boston Tea Party. They take the stuff that they scalped off of our people and they put it on. They put on blackface, copper colored, and then they go ahead and do this a couple times, and that's it. Right. Matter of fact, though, going back to what I was saying, remember that I was saying the Confederacy, you think the Confederacy is gone. People just silent about it. In Brazil, they had to, even though they're not going to be able to stop it, but they had to come up with a law in Brazil recently. I think this year, even, I might be wrong on that, but I think even this year, they had to come up with a law for Brazil because in Brazil, they still have people that come together every year and they celebrate the Confederacy because they're still Confederates. Wait a minute. No, 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 no. Slavery died and this is gone and you going too far. No, no, no. Like they had to make a law recently to say, hey man, y'all are out of control with the Confederacy stuff. And we're not gonna allow y'all to wild out the way you were. Because Brazil is pretty much the last place where slavery existed in the way where it was just outright in your face. And how did that get down there, by the way? The Confederacy wasn't big enough to where it was down in Brazil. How did it get down there? Well, you had a lot of people that tried to go to Texas and they were trying to get away. Some people made it off of boats with their slaves. Some people couldn't. Some people took their slaves down to Texas and the Union chased them down there. And eventually they got on boats or sometimes they marched their slaves all the way down to Brazil. And they made sure that they got down there to reestablish the Confederacy and they got in on slavery down there. You said, where do you find out the information about the Boston Tea Party? I'm just uh as far as just putting the stuff together, in all honesty, if you look at it as far as this, and that's a great question, Minister Joseph. If you look at it like this, like you've got, like, think about it. Once again, what is an American? There's two definitions of an American in Black's Law Dictionary, right? There's two definitions of an American in Black's Law Dictionary. Original definition is a copper colored person indigenous to the Americas. But then all of a sudden, you got another group of people, they start saying they're the Americans. You got to ask yourself, what happened? What happened? Now go back and start watching, and you got to. So what I would suggest is start reading what some of these places people started saying about war and how they became Americans. Look up what Benjamin Franklin has to say. Look up what George Washington has to say. Look up what they said in Boston. Look up what they said down in the Carolinas. Before they fought each other, they were part of the same team, right? Look up what they did. Look up when they did the Boston Tea Party. So when they said, we're the Americans, we take this seriously, we're this, we're that, they started saying, like, this is our home, things of that nature. And then it culminates with what? That Tea Party, where they put on copper. They literally tried to imitate the copper colored people. And then right after that, that was when what? 50% of them are Americans, right? So, like, yeah. So yeah, exactly. Right. That original definition. So when you start putting the stuff together, you go like, there was never even anything official that said you were an American. You guys said you weren't American. You said you were Englishmen. Then you said that you didn't like what the king was doing. And you said he was going to try to make slaves out of you. So you fought him to be able to protect your slaves. But you said that it was okay to get rid of them because those slaves, once again, like they tell us, we don't have no history. They just say what? All they do is just say, oh, well, your history is ours. It's his story. It's not your story. Right. You ever ran into a bully or you ever ran into a thug or whatever, and they take something from you, somebody do something at gunpoint, somebody just bigger, stronger than you, and they go, say something, right? They take your stuff and then you let, but that's mine. Say something. Say something then. Say so, I dare you. Right? That's what they did. I dare you to say that you the American. Say something. Yeah, they put on the blackface when they dumped the tea, right? I don't know if I said it out of order. Maybe I said that out of order. right? But they basically hit you, took your stuff, bullied you, and then said, say something. And they saying the same thing today. Be silent, say something. Well, you know, Joe Biden and Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell all got ties to China. Say something, right? No, I'm not gonna say that. Remember hashtag please don't make me vote for Joe Biden? Say something now. Hey man, Joe's gonna change the world. And Carmela, didn't you say that Joe Biden was racist? Say something. Okay, you know, we did it, Joe. We did it, Joe. Say something. Yeah. Ukraine, all that. Say something. Hey, everybody's talking about Ukraine, this and that, or whatever. Why did nobody talk about the fact that Black Ukrainians or people of African descent that are in Ukraine, they got on planes here too? And America let the Ukrainians stay here, but they told the Africans they got to go back to Africa. But you say that if you're born here and you're Black, you shouldn't consider yourself to be African. You're just all American. Say something, though. You shouldn't consider yourself to be indigenous. Say something. Silent. Silent and violent. Silent but violent. Now, however you want to look at it. How you doing, it Smoker? Thanks for being part of the community. Say something. You know, there's people out here who are saying that ever since people started getting the shot, there's doctors, not just random people. This is not conspiracy theory. Doctors out here and people. If you want to say that I'm too Afrocentric or whatever, to see as if that's stopped anybody from getting the shot or whatever, or taking the shot, but whatever. Like colonial construct. So on white doctors, colonial construct. If you think it's patriarchy, white female doctors have come out and been like, you know, ever since people started taking the shots, we're seeing that babies, especially ones that don't make it, they're not resembling human beings. They're kind of falling apart and they're becoming toxic in the body. Say something. Don't say that too loud though. Don't say that too loud though. Don't say it too many times. We'll take everything about you. We'll take you down. We'll make sure that you don't ever say anything again. We should be unified. You should be unified. You're a reverse racist. Say something. Now you afraid to speak up for your people. Um, I had to find it. That's one of those things I was scrolling through, but it'll probably come past myself knowing what rabbit holes I go down. Oh, hey, how you doing, Minister Joseph? We know you're here with us. How you doing, Bobby? You know, like we got to be honest. World Health Organization for a while was against the vaccine. They were until all of a sudden they weren't. Matter of fact, that's what happened to our first YouTube channel. First YouTube channel was fine. Nope, never really had any severe strikes. I started helping people. We started helping people to be able to get an exemption for the vaccine if they want it. Next thing you know, 3 strikes in a day and a half for videos that had been posted, that when I went and looked up the videos, they were videos that I literally was talking about other videos that the World Health Organization backed up. So I literally took World Health Organization stuff, put it out there based off of stuff that wasn't even vaccine stuff. They went back and found stuff where I was mentioning like how to read, you know, the labels and stuff, or the little stickers they put on fruits and vegetables, things like that, and stuff like that. But they heard me talking about vaccine. Next thing you know, it's gone. Gone. Bullying, right? Now, if I were to say that, those same people would say we don't allow bullying on our platform, you bully. But will I admit, YouTube straight up kind of told me, like, hey, look, World Health Organization, they do the AdSense stuff. You get paid off of ads. They give us money for the ads. They get to tell us what to do. They say they don't like you talking, cut you off. And I comprehend it. It's not my platform. I get it. It's not mine. So when I come into this, I got to be in the system, but not of it. You said your wife said that she found a doctor who said COVID presents like AIDS. I think I've heard something like that. I can't really give more on that, but yeah, I definitely could see that. And how you doing, R Gray? Right. But that's what they out here for. Say something. You say the truth. Say something. I dare you say the truth again. Like your children, if they go to school and they say Santa Claus isn't real, the teachers will pull your child to the side and will call you up even and be like, hey, your child's in here telling Santa Claus isn't real. And while we know Santa Claus isn't real, we don't really want your child in here telling the truth. Now, that should be heads up for most people to be like, homeschool, children can't be in there, whatever got to do to protect these children, I will not do it. Matter of fact, that should be something you would think people would sign a petition and all the stuff that y'all think that this world would be listening to you. You would sign a petition. Matter of fact, yeah, I got in trouble for it too. You know that you can sign a petition even to make sure that you tell them to stop teaching evolution. You could literally get enough people together in your area, sign a petition. If enough people don't believe in evolution, you can get somebody to teach creation in school. You just have to find a teacher that's willing to teach it. You can't force a teacher to teach it, but if a teacher's willing to teach creation, and there's a lot of people out here dying to teach the truth. I know some of them that they teach in school, right? And they would really love to be able to say like hallelujah and thank you, Yah, and all this stuff, but they can't because they'll get in trouble for it. But all you have to do is come together. See, but we don't even think about those things. All you got to do is do those things. Right. And if you did those things and came together, things would be all right. Like we're in a school, we're in a system that tells people that they're supposed to go ahead and come together. See, we've talked about this before. People are unified over lies, but the truth separates. You want to find people in unity nowadays? People don't unify in truth, because unifying truth means you have to become a people separate unto yourself. And you have to therefore be in a place where everybody's free to live in truth. See, everybody can live in a lie though, as long as you're willing to be a slave. I mean, we can. We trying to do stuff even just virtually starting. My wife has pretty much started finishing up the curriculum, as you're gonna have it set up to where people, children can come together for sure, but also parent, even if she can't run it, somebody else, as long as they can read slides, they can be able to go ahead and make sure that the program keeps on going. So the stuff is there to support. Oh, you let them know old Saint Nick ain't real. Yeah. But we have this once again though, it's silence. Why did nobody ever tell you that, you have a right not to make sure that your children have to go through sex ed? Why does nobody tell us that in Virginia? And that's supposed to be Bible Beltish. It's not really Bible Belt, that's more Carolinas and then some other places. But Virginia's supposedly kind of Bible Beltish in views. But if you go to Virginia, especially if you lived in Northern Virginia in the DMV area, you know that it's like, what do they call it? Blue, right? A Democrat or whatever. Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you. Right. But if you go over there to Virginia, shoot, they have devil worshippers to come and read to children in school. They have people that dress up and have horns on their heads, wearing no underwear, making sure that they read these books and stuff like that in front of your children. How many grade levels within the stuff? I think there's different age. I'd have to look at the age groups. There's different age groups. There's different age groups. But once again, we're not like this stuff we're silent about. How do and I know I'm way over time now, so I'm not going to go too much further in this. Just trying to bring up a point tonight. I know a lot of times people declare that we don't have anything to fix things. I believe we're fixing things right now, even in the mind. But I'm not giving extreme details on all the stuff like we normally would do. But let's be honest with you. How many times do people come on and we'll be on a live session or somebody watches a video and you look in the comments, or somebody makes a video, you look in the comments and you'll see somebody say, I'm tired of all these problems. Nobody has solutions. Time out. The fact that nobody has solutions is based on the fact that, first of all, we haven't admitted there's a problem. Oh no, you fine. You fine, bro. I'm just saying in general, I just realized what time it is. You guys are fine. You guys are fine. But have we ever thought about the fact that nobody ever declared these problems? We've talked about this book a lot. Dr. Joy DeGroy wrote a book, PTSS, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Look up post-traumatic slave syndrome, and you'll see that nobody's ever thought about it, including our people. We've never actually sat down and had conversations about, what? We've been traumatized, right? 400 years. 2019 is supposed to be coming out of it if you believe 1619 is the demarcation. I'm not even 100% sure it is, but if that's what you believe, fine. 2019. So we technically only been, and we're not free as far as, well, we're free as far as the shackles for the most part are off, and as far as the Most High, He's given us a door or a dollar to be able to have our mindset change. But we don't talk about that. Hey, that's just 3 years out. It took 40 years before they could even go into Canaan. You 3 years out. So if we're gonna make the math, and we're gonna use 1619 to 2019 as a demarcation, well, then we still got about what, 37 years? No, I'm sorry. I forget, we're 2023. So we got about going on somewhere around 36 years or so. Right? 40 years from 2019. Right? 29, 39, 49, 59. You're talking about 2059 before people can actually start getting to a place of righteousness. And we better start setting up an environment now so that when it finally clicks, we don't look around and say, wow, I realized what happened to me. Oh, snap, I'm still a servant to this fake kingdom, this republic they call the United States Corporation, 28 USC 300215A corporation. Yeah, or we get so stuck in cognitive dissonance to where you believe because you got the physical shackles off, you got the mental shackles off. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present yourself a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, which is your reasonable service, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's a daily process. Well, true that. We can't go to a psychiatrist and say we need treatment for PTSS, but we can go to somebody else. And by the way, why can't we go to a psychiatrist? We should. See, that's why we got to have our own environment. We have to have our own psychiatrist. See, what does psychology even mean? What does psyche mean? Psyche in the Greek, Psyche. What does that even mean? In the Greek, psyche actually means the soul. So if you go to somebody who's going to deal with in psychology, they're dealing with the logic of the soul or they're studying your soul. Now, if you go to a psychologist, I know psychiatrist is what you said, but I'm just using this type of etymology because it makes it a little easier for us to comprehend. If you go to a psychologist is IST, proficient at ology, studying what? Psyche, the soul. But they're doing it through somebody else's prism. If you're dealing with the people who've already given up their birthright with the Esau spirit, how you gonna deal with the people that got the birthright? Oh, that might have been a little tough. Some people don't like that. But I'm just saying, if you're dealing with somebody, right? That's why I started even doing life coaching and marital coaching and one-on-one coaching and stuff, because I didn't even necessarily want to do it. I do enough speaking as is, right? But I realized that when I hear people talking about their problems and when I would listen to them, I started realizing, oh, like we're told to go to places who tell us to do stuff through a very, um, you know, um, global centric and a very, a very Western Eurocentric thought process, a very Greco-Roman process, a very romantic process, Roman antics. And so I realized real quick, like, if we don't start dealing with stuff, because there's stuff that somebody will be like, and in their culture, well, like they weren't slaves. So even though they're wrong, they just go like, well, we'll work on this and you should be able to get over it and do this and blah, blah. And how we work in our mindset is that. And you got to war against this and you got to kind of fight against this and, fight against it by just, blah, blah. They're talking about wartime, things like that. But for us, you know, like we have a different thing. See, first of all, you don't even realize who you are. The silence. Who are you? Like, they come in there knowing my great great grandfather did blah blah, or or 5 generations ago this person wore this type of uniform, or in this place over in Europe our people did this before we came over here. Even if they don't know the names, they at least know this is who we are. We can attach ourselves to something. As far as our people, we're told, like, basically a lot of our people after your grandmother, sometimes maybe your great grandmama and them, as far as their story, but pretty much 3-4 generations tops. Well, maybe if you add your children in there, maybe you get the 5-6 generations tops, and then that's all you really care about. And you don't even care about knowing all of the stuff. You just care about, hey, I met this person, and then these people, they know me, and so that's enough. And we don't even tell our children, like, your great grandfather did blah blah. We don't even do that to our children and our grandchildren. Sometimes we don't even allow our children to get it together. As much as they talk trash about all this stuff, daughters of other cultures, they get to stay around until they're married. They're supposed to. But in our culture, hey, shoot, you need to go ahead out there. I don't care if you get on Section 8 or not. Get out there, do your own thing. So yet they don't keep records when it came to slavery. Even though they do, they just won't give it to us. There's people out there that literally like have chains and enslaved docks, and they have stuff about Wall Street, and they have all that stuff listed. They just don't. We're just not privy to it. That's why you got to at least start learning your culture, your language, something to hold on to. If you can't travel back, find somebody who has traveled back. If you can't travel back physically, at least travel back in your mind. Travel back to a place and a time and a thought process to where, hey, melanin, melanin is everything, because somebody tried to tell you the less melanin, the worse you were, and that you had to have you know, as much. This is what it says in Willie Lynch letter: get as much variations of black folk and drop as much white blood in them as you can. See, because if they drop somebody else's blood in you, then you don't think that your blood is necessary. And if white blood is the standard, well, this person's a little lighter, this person's a lot lighter, this person's really, really light. This person's even a brunette, or what you call a brunette. A brunette literally means somebody who could pass for white. You think of a brunette as somebody who is white, but you don't realize that when they even say people, oh yeah, I'm attracted to brunettes, what they're telling you is they're attracted to people that could pass. So they got that drop of white blood in them, but they're really black. But they got enough drops of white blood to where it don't look like it. In Brazil, they call it blaqueamenta. They did the same kind of thing in Australia. They did the same thing here in breeding camps. They did the same thing in Europe. Did the same thing in Asia and Japan, if you want to be honest. Did the same thing all over the place. What is blaqueamenta, by the way? They literally hired people from other countries and said, there's all these black folk over here. If you guys will come over here and have children with these black folk, we'll give you land and money and all this stuff. You just need to make sure you have children with them so we can keep diluting this blood. There are historians that will tell you, when you talk about Egyptians are not the people of Kemet. And even the people who have that Kemetic blood in them that consider themselves to be Egyptians, what's happened over time is, and I'm talking about Greek and Roman historians, not our historians, have said this, to where they said that, hey, who you see over there now is not the original people. And the reason they don't look the same is because they have the diluted blood. Matter of fact, those of you who don't know, see, we're silent about this stuff. Go to Israel. Go to Israel, y'all, and look at Israel when in the 1940s. So remember, in the 1800s, nobody would have thought of who you think of an Israelite today as an Israelite back then. Matter of fact, there was no such thing as Middle East to the 1800s, and all it meant was Britain was the world power. If you were east of them, you were east. If you were all the way over in China somewhere, you were far east. And if you were somewhere in the middle, you were in the Middle East. Right? That was it. That was all they talked about as far as the empire. Remember, they said there was not a time period. There was not, in 24 hours, the sun never went down in their empire. They owned somebody or something or colonized something all over the planet. And what they would do is they would say, but anyways, when you talk about those people that people say are us, you have to realize that nobody thought of them as being us until even basically the 1940s, when 1930s and 1940s, when they came up with that, and they got in league with who? With the winners, right? You had the Axis powers versus America, France, Russia, and England, and they came together. And the same way they divided Germany up and did all that stuff and had the Berlin redivided and Berlin Wall and all that, they did the same type of thing over in Israel. And they did it with the Rothschild family. The Rothschild family wanted the Ashkenazi to be able to have a place to be able to, make money for them. And then they had a war, and America and England and Russia and France gave them all these weapons and everything so they could fight in their war. And they fought the war and they won it real fast, right? Within days. And when they won the war against all these other countries that didn't like them because they were like, you're not supposed to be here, you're not of us. Then they went to a lot of places, said, recognize as a sovereign, or we're going to tear you up, recognize as a sovereign. So they went to Kemet, or what we now know as Egypt, and they went to the Egyptian prime minister, either the prime minister or the president, I believe it was the prime minister, but went to the Egyptian leadership, and they said to him, they said, hey, recognize as a sovereign. And he said, no. They said, why won't you recognize as a sovereign? And he said, well, when you left, you're talking about Israelites. So the Israelites said, well, why won't you recognize as a sovereign? And this is what he said to them. He said, well, when you left, you were black. But when you came back, now you're white. Why is that not taught? Why are we silent? I mean, that's the truth. Why is nobody talking about that? Why did not that not show up in your civics class or your history class? Why did that not show up in your history class? Why does that not show up in world when you learned about World War II? Why does it not show up in all this stuff? You hear about all these different things, but silence. See, we think silence is golden, but sometimes silence is just an outright lie. There you go. Silence is not golden. Yep. So when you left, that's what he said to him. Now, if anybody would know, and by the way, he's somebody that colonized too. So he said, "Look, colonizer the colonizer, you trying to get me on some foul stuff." He said, "Look, when we colonize here, we know who the people of Kemet are, and we know what the slaves look like, and we know what the Israelites were, and we know that basically, hey, look, when you left, when they were scattered, when they left, they were black, and now that you come back and you say you're them, you a whole different color. That ain't happened that fast." That's what he was saying. Because we think he's talking about thousands of years. No, 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 no. He's saying literally nobody thought that an Israelite, go look it up. We got it on this channel, and I think Kofi underscore 43. If you go look up, we got videos on there. Look up what an Israelite looked like in the 1800s and the 1900s. It's on video, it's on film, it's on wax, right? Like it's on wax. Like look up what an Israelite looked like in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and then look at the same people in 1940 something. Are they can't be the same people is the point. And by the way, it shows the same buildings and everything. So the buildings that one group of people are walking through, another group of people walking through the same thing. How you doing, Sir Stephen? So silence is not golden if it's a lie. If you're looking at silence as golden, even though silence is a lie, it's been put in place of the truth, we would call that fool's gold. It's fake. Yeah, right. We got the receipts now. You can't mess with it now. You can go look up on YouTube. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube. So if you don't want to, scroll through all the stuff I have, just type it in on YouTube and see what you find. I might have to even try to repost it at some point just to make sure that y'all can see it and see it up more because I mentioned it. But now the more and more videos you have over time, it gets harder and harder. It's probably easier to see it on Kofi underscore 42 than Kofi underscore 43. We have a lot more videos on there now coming out on a regular basis than we do on Kofi underscore 42. Oh, hey, how you doing, sis? Thanks for being on. Right. So I'm just saying, like, if somebody keeps telling us lies over and over and over again, at some point, we got to believe who they are. Maya Angelou, our ancestor, she said, if somebody tells you who they are, believe them what? The first time. And see, this is where we are insane. Einstein says repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is insanity. See, he's been telling you who he is over and over again. And so we have more people worried about the patriarchy, about feminism, than we are about our own people. May I say that again? We're more concerned. We're silent about it. We're so busy talking about the patriarchy, but why haven't we talked about the fact that we got people that are more concerned about making sure they graduate college and are Greek? Silence. I'm just saying, right? Think about it. The Eurocentric values and this and that or whatever, but you want that Greek letter when you leave. Make sure I'm alpha, make sure I'm kappa, make sure I'm omega, make sure I'm alpha phi, whatever. I want to be part of the sorority or the fraternity. Fraternity with who? Brotherhood with who? Sorority, sisterhood with who? Yeah, we're suffering Stockholm syndrome. And we're silent about it. Matter of fact, we'll watch people, and this is I know this is something that's not really funny, but it's real. Like if some people are gonna think about the Boondocks when I said it, that's not where I'm thinking about it from. But real talk, like you think that twirling canes and barking like a dog is where it's at with Greek letters on, walking across the sands. You walk across sands, but your people ain't got nowhere to live. Mm. Yeah, the correct women in red now. I like that. That's a word right there. That would maybe feel a certain way right there. I'm going to make sure my wife. No, here's that one. I like that. But yeah, like we're sitting up here And we're Eurocentric as I don't know what, trying our best. Yes, it's idiocy to a certain level. Definitely ignorance if you don't want to go to that level or of adjective. But it's idiocy to a certain level, right? But same people who can tell you about this and make sure you better not wear outside of our color. You better always wear blue. You better always wear purple. You better make sure you proud to be a Delta. Where's this at? That's a curse, by the way, but where's this at? But you ain't got no, I'm not even saying you have to wear it, but I just want you to see the mentality. You got your blue on display, you got your purple, you got your red, you got your cane, right? You ready to make sure that you know your number in the line, and you got your steps down. And by the way, ain't nothing wrong with step. Hey man, I love stepping, right? But the culture, the thought process behind it. But you got all that together. But somebody says, where are your tassels at? And where's your fringes at? And where's your scripture at? And where's your language at? Where's your effort at? I mean, if you don't like those, where's your ankh at? Where's your headband at? Where's your ankle bracelets at? You think that's pagan. Like we're so messed up. We've even misinterpreted the word pagan. We're silent about that. Like we think that's pagan, y'all. Where's your culture at? Exactly. That's the bare essence of what we're talking about, right? You said we have to be concerned about what the patriarchy is doing. I mean, we can be concerned about the patriarchy. What I'm saying is we're so concerned about what the patriarchy is doing concerning others, though. You know, we fought for the Stop Asian Hate bill. I'm with you, but we fought for the Stop Asian Hate bill, right? When we fought for the Stop Asian Hate bill, where's your bill? Just this year, they finally said in the Senate, Congress, I guess, as long as we fill out all these other things, I guess we'll say that hanging somebody from a tree is bad. But they used to do that on picnics. That's what I thought I was going to talk about this evening before the Holy Spirit redirected me. I thought we were going to talk about picnics where they literally picked an N word. That's where it comes from. Picnic. Go look at by the way, go look it up. At the end of church services, you know how they do announcements? They'd have announcements at the end of church service, or even in the middle of church service, wherever you guys do your announcements. Normally nowadays we do them in the middle of church service. They'd have it on the announcements. You can go read it. Hey, make sure after church, y'all ready. We done picked us an N-word. As soon as we finish here, we're gonna hang them, we're gonna burn them, and sometimes we're gonna eat them. But people don't like that. So we're gonna hang them, we're gonna burn them. You think they just burn them to burn them? They burn them to cook them up. But people don't want to go there, so let's not go too hard at it because and it's a little disgusting. It might be too vile for some people to even go there. But they used to have, but we that's where that comes from. Picnic, to pick an N-word, and you would pick them, and then you make sure you hung them, and you would burn them. And they have pictures. You see little children, little white children, smiling and laughing and excited to see this person burn. And then people would pay to get the best parts. Hey, I want the liver, and they take it home and they cut the burnt liver out, or hopefully it didn't burn too much because they wanted to be able to put it on display. And where your television goes now, they used to have something called a mantle. That's why you talk about like TV mantles and stuff like that. They used to call it a mantle, and that was where the fireplace was. And right on top of the fireplace, you'd have it displayed proudly. So when people came by, they'd be like, "Wow, you've got a part of an N word. That man, you went to a picnic." Yeah, man, it was great. We had service and we praised Jesus. And right after that, we had a chance to have food and everything, and we watched him die and burn, and we watched the impurity leave his impure soul leave his body. And as a I'm sorry, I'm trying to make it through without getting too disgusted or upset. But the word even escapes me. I'm looking as a keepsake. I paid $50 for this. And I donated the 50 to the church, and for this, the church blessed me with a piece of this N word, so my family can see it for generations. Some families still got it. They got them in the attic. They got it locked up somewhere. That's part of their legacy. They passed that down. They pass you down. Yep, making shoes. By the way, you know that they made furniture sometimes out of your hair. They cut your hair off, the hair you weren't allowed to have. If they did allow it to grow, they let it grow long enough to where they could shave everybody's head like you were sheep. The same sheep who should know the master's voice, but they shaved your head, they sheared your head, and then they put in the stuff to sit on. Right? This is supposed to be your crown. but they put it in a chair so they could sit on the throne. But we're silent. How you doing, Sister Denise? We're silent. I know, right? Stay in the spirit. Amen, right? But I'm just saying, we remain silent. And the silence is starting to scream. See, at some point, if we don't talk about it, we're gonna act up. At some point, if we don't talk about it, we're gonna punch somebody. At some point, we're gonna think, well, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm gonna hang somebody because they hung me. You better start talking about this because you've got DNA memory. You've got curses that you got to break off you. And we can only do it with Yahweh, Yad, He, Vav, He. You know, your DNA is made out of that because Yad is 10, Vav is 5, He is 6, Vav is 5. I'm sorry. Yad, He, Vav, He. Yeah, Vav, sorry. Yad is 10, He is 5, Vav is 6, He is 5. Yachavach. And what does that mean when you put it together? What some people say Yahweh or Yahuwah, etc. Right? When you put that together, or Yahweh even, when you put that together, what do you get? You get your DNA. Your DNA, that R, S, T, and A. They can't come together in that helix unless it follows a 10, 5, 6, 5. So the only way you're going to break that curse off your DNA and get that DNA memory off you and make sure that it goes no further than you, it goes no further than this child, it goes no further than my spouse, is you're going to have him at the center of it. And that means that we can't hold his name in vain. It's time to stop being silent about his name even. Whenever you see Lord in the Bible, all capital letters, Lord, that is Yahweh. Say his name. We talk about all these other people, and we should. Breonna Taylor, say her name. We should. Trayvon Martin, say his name. We should. George Floyd, say his name. We should. Breonna Taylor, say her name. But don't forget Yahweh. Say his name. Yashrai, say his name. Amana Va'al, say his name. Even his title, Elacham, say his title even. Don't be afraid to be who you are. They replace the truth. You read your Bible. Even Ravak HaKodah, say her name. Like, you read your Bible. And you don't even know your culture. You say Lord God, you say God, you say Lord. You don't know if it's all caps Lord, that's Yahweh. You don't know if that's uppercase L Lord, that's Adon. You don't know if it's lowercase L Lord, that's Adonai. Like, you just, and by the way, they tell you say Adonai or Adonai all the time for Lord. But if it's capital Lord, that's Adon. There's a difference between Adon and Adonai. Say his name, Yahweh. Say his name in your name. Because your name, when you came over on the ships, go look at the names of a lot of those people that came in on the ships, and you will discover that they had Israelite names. But they say you're not an Israelite. See, that's why it says, if my people who are called by my name, we were supposed to be even called by his name. He knows yours. That's a great point. If it takes time out to say your name and know your name and count and number the hairs on your head, not to count them, but to number them. If you lose a hair, if I'm going like this through my beard and hair comes out, he knows, oh, that was here 7,565,001. But we can't say his name. And the Bible says, do not keep his name in vain. Do not keep his name in vain. We keep it, we watch it and keep it locked up. The word Shem or Sham, if you say you're Shemitic, it means that you are authorized. It means you are named. That's what Sham or Shem means, is name. Say his name. When you say hallelujah or hallelujah, why did they never tell you that the end of it is Yah? Because his name is the short version of his name is Yah. It's short for Yahweh. So hallelujah is really hallelujah Yahweh, is a compound word. You say your name is the word you love the most to hear. Psychology 101. Wow. Mm. Right? Say his name. It makes you feel different. Once again, your DNA is based off of 10, 5, 6, 5. Doesn't it make you feel different when you say Yahweh versus just saying God or He is. I'm not saying we can't call him the Most High. I'm not saying we can't call him Al Shaddad. I'm not saying we can't say Yahweh Nisi and all that. Those aren't names necessarily, right? But those are things we can say. But say his name. It feels better. It feels different, doesn't it? It feels different when you know that's his name. That's who he identifies as. See, when I know your name, see, you can't be married to somebody and not know their name. Thank you for the love. You can't be married to somebody and not even be aware of what your name is. What sense does that make? We've been married for 25 years. Oh, what's your wife's name? I don't know. What? How you do that? Where they do that at? But we're your husband's wife. You don't know his name. But you love him and you honor him and you praise him. Look, I like a lot of these songs. So please forgive me. Some of these songs I'm mentioning, I'm not saying I wouldn't play them, but I know I have to translate it in my head while listening to it. I have to, because you don't know his name. And that's what people be doing. Somebody says, you know, his name's not Yahshua. Well, even if his name's not Yahshua, it's in the name of Jesus that people will be saved. And I've seen souls saved in the name of Jesus. And you can't tell me anything about, but Jesus means half man, half Zeus. You can't tell me what my mama and my grandmama and my granddaddy said. You can't tell me. Nobody can tell me. I know him for myself, but you don't know his name. Baby boy, you out here preaching up a sweat, but you don't know his name. I mean, think about that. Called out the wrong name during sex. But you know the word know, to know somebody, K-N-O-W. That's a great point, babe. To know somebody, K-N-O-W, it means to be intimate with them. So you talking about you intimate, becoming one with your husband, but you say somebody else's name. What do you think gonna happen? You think y'all just gonna keep going like nothing happened? I don't think anybody should hit somebody, but if somebody calls somebody the wrong name in the bedroom, you better be ready to duck. Bare minimum. At least make sure that you ain't gonna be in the house no more. Remember the knocking service, the knocking ceremony we talked about? Behold, I stand at the door and knock. He's trying to get permission to come in to see if you'll become his wife. So you mean to tell me, Yahshua, in Revelation chapters 2 and 3, that you're trying to get in to see if you can marry the people that say that they live for you and serve you and do all this stuff? He's knocking to see if we can be married. Yeah, that's what he said. You don't even know my name, but you say that you're married to me? When did we not when did we see you hungry and not feed you, and thirsty and not give you something to drink, and see you naked and not clothe you, and see you in the hospital and not come to see about you, and make sure that when you were in prison we came to see about you, and when you were a stranger we didn't make sure that we took care of you? He said you didn't do it to the least of these, so you didn't do it unto me. You were looking for me through everybody else's prison and selling out to them and selling your soul and selling your people out to dry and all this stuff, but you wouldn't say his name. Now be forgiving of people, because so we're such a, such were some of us. He said because you call him a wrong name, you're unconsciously evoking the wrong spirit. There you go, right? Right. But be careful, because we used to be like people too that didn't know any better. Matter of fact, some of us, we're still growing. Matter of fact, if I might admit, I'm still growing. I have not, as Paul said, I have not arrived yet. But bare minimum, if I learn somebody's name, respect says I should say their name out of respect. If I meet somebody for the first time, I say, nice to meet you. What's your name? And they say, hello, my name is Javon. I'm going to make sure that I call them Javon. And if I forget what their name is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to act like I'm going to just go over it or blast past it or whatever. I'm going to say, hey, I apologize. I'm sorry. What was your name again? Please forgive me. I'm having a tough time, but I want to make sure I honor your name. Yeah, I had to ask myself, who am I honoring if I refuse to say his name? Most deaf. So we got to stop being in silence, even when it comes to his name, because when the truth is replaced by silence, the silence is a lie. Will you be a liar and just keep letting stuff go on? Don't be a liar and not say nothing. And then when your child start growing up and start displaying habits and you say, I don't know where that came from, I raised them. Hey, when you were silent, you lied. I'm just saying. Don't be up there and you got a dating mentality. Bible doesn't say anything about dating. Nowhere in this canon does it say anything about dating. You find it for me, and I'll go ahead and I will apologize every single time on the for the rest of this year. I will come on here and start every single podcast, every single TikTok, every single YouTube video, every single whatever with I'm sorry. I've been telling you that you shouldn't be dating. The Bible doesn't tell any things about dating. If you find me the people who dated, I will be quiet. I promise you, you won't. But we silent about it. People have dating habits. So you get into marriage, with sex is marriage, marriage is sex in the Bible. You have to be pre-qualified for marriage, right? But in your churches, don't they have singles ministries? What do your singles ministries encourage? Oh, but they don't teach you what a husband and a wife is though. But they'll have you go to single stuff. Don't they have stuff like Christian mingles, Christian dating sites, Christian sites you can swipe left on now? Mm, they got all that. But where's the teaching on marriage? Where's the teaching? What? Who? Where is the? See, watch this. Where's the group of people that are supposed to be witnesses to you and say for sure that they can all vouch for you officially and say yes, you are a husband, you are a wife according to our standards. But we silent, and when the truth is replaced by silence, that's what they're doing. And I didn't just throw the Bible on the ground. It's on a soft bed, okay? But with the truth, right? With the truth is replaced by silence, is what they're doing. And then they turn their back to it and they preach you a sermon. And every time somebody says something about it, it's try to get in place of it, hide it more. Okay. That's what they do. That's what they do it consistently. And it's time for us to start saying, I'm tired of you just throwing stuff out and being quiet about it. That thing you did to us, I'm not going to be quiet about it anymore. And if you say me bringing it up means that I'm not closer to the Most High, right, then I'll leave that Jesus alone. I'd rather be closer to the actual Yahshua. I'll leave that God alone. I'd rather be with Elohim. I'll leave that Lord alone, or whatever you want to call him, or sometimes you'll say Jehovah, and I'll go to Yahweh. Hmm. It's time for us to start telling the truth. Thank you all. I was going to try to end it. Holy Spirit did what she did, though, so I obeyed. We don't normally go this long on evenings. As a matter of fact, pretty soon we'll be starting classes. Matter of fact, we're probably going to delay. I hate to do this again. We do this almost every time, but this time for great reason, because we got so much stuff we're trying to tighten the strings on. So I think we said that we were going to start classes next Monday. We're going to wait one more. We'll just wait at least one more Monday, because I haven't even put the updates on the website amongst thousands of other things I feel like I have to do. So we're getting some help with some things, so things are getting a little better. Ministerial staff, don't forget, this is the first Thursday of the month, by the way. So we have our meeting coming up, and those who make phone calls in your areas, if you don't pop up on the meeting or get a meeting invite, we'd like for you to be on this first meeting this year, because I want to make sure certain things that are happening and certain things as far as communication and stuff, we want to make sure that all that's in line, especially with Holy Day stuff coming up as well. So if you guys are charged with making sure that you talk to people in your area, you should be getting the invite for that meeting. It's going to be Thursday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern New York time, and it'll be pretty informational. I don't know how much talking back and forth we're going to be doing. We're just going to be making sure at least you guys get some information out there, so when people are joining up with us all around, and we're calling everybody who's coming in and stuff, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as specific dates, how to use the calendar online, yada yada yada. Those of you who are interested in calendars, interested in tassels, interested in, we're actually making sure we're editing the books and everything now. The music and stuff is pretty much ready to go as well. Just trying to figure out now what platform we're going to use, or if we just go ahead and use some of the same platforms we already use to put it out there for people. And we're working newsletter, calendar is out, tassels are out. We're working on getting clothing for us, especially by the time we hit some of these holy days, so we can be dressed similarly and maybe even have some of the fringes and all that stuff together on it as well. So we're working diligently. Ministerial staff is reaching out to people. If you see me DM you or something like that at the end of these videos, please make sure that you um, you know um, respond back so we can make sure that somebody's in your area. And like when we talk to you, once I talk to you, we'll make sure that the ministerial staff can be able to link up with you as well. Eventually, we're gonna have some deacons at some point in this year helping out as well. We also have people that are making phone calls and things as well. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, you can shout out your city, shout out your area where you're in. Let us know where you are. We'll get back to you ASAP. Just give me time. Right now, for the most part, it's me doing most of the contacting, at least at first, and then somebody else will contact you as well. But that's been working pretty well. So at the end of these videos, we like for you guys to shout out where you're from. So feel free to shout out where you're from, and it'll allow me to take a screenshot and get in contact with you guys and connect with you. So we appreciate you. Okay, Big Bro, I didn't know you were in New York. Which one of the 5 boroughs are you in? So somebody was telling me the other day. So I know we got a couple people in I think we got somebody in the Bronx, somebody else. I don't know. They didn't put what borough they in, and we got somebody over in New Jersey. So that's great. We got people in Philly and stuff like that as well. Okay, you in Manhattan? Okay, cool. So um, so yeah, so just shout out where you're from. We'll make sure that we get in touch with you, and then as soon as we do and we have some conversation, we'll make sure that somebody else can get in touch with you. Got somebody else, and indeed Detroit is representing lately, growing a lot. So Brother Alton, he's the contact point in Detroit, so he'll reach out to you. But yeah, so we're appreciative. We thank you guys, and even if you guys see some of the stuff, I think Tehran, I think I saw you over in the Dallas area. I think I got you down. I think I tried to reach you through Kofi_43. So check your DM. If it didn't work, by the way, feel free to DM me as well if you guys want to participate in stuff we're doing or learn more about things. Okay, Sister Lorraine, I'll make sure I screenshot you as far as there. Oh, okay, Army of Diamonds. I didn't know you were in New York as well. Okay, cool. All right, see, so here we go. Here we go. All right, awesome. So yeah, so but thank you okay, you got me this time on it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So go ahead, keep shouting out if you want. We thank you guys for being on. We appreciate you. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to take my leave. And we'll be back in front of you guys soon. We'll have some information up for you as well if you're trying to figure out, at least if you're on TikTok. We'll have some information up here as well as we get ready to take our leave and close out. So if you'd like to be able to see some of the stuff that we're doing or some ways of getting in contact with us, feel free to do so. It'll be up on your screen a little bit as we play a little bit of praise and worship music on our way out of here. So we thank you guys. We honor you again. We thank you for connecting with us. And thank you for spending some time with us today, and we appreciate your presence. So uh, and also we give all praise and honor to the Most High. Please study this word and meditate on it so you can be doers and hearers simultaneously. And please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not AND, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank you again. We appreciate you. We honor you. We look forward to building kingdom with each other. And we'll be back on tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time on Kofi_43. We'll be back here on TikTok, Kofi_42. We'll see you guys tomorrow on YouTube as well, at both times, same place. Don't forget, the last watch party is tomorrow. So those who are part of the Patreon kingdom and those that just want to come in and watch a movie we've been watching, Reclaiming the Throne, we'll be finishing up the last episode 3 tomorrow. And then on Saturday for SOC meeting, we'll come together and we'll discuss what we learned. And thank you guys again for everything. So we appreciate you, honor you. And as a heads up, I will be on Wednesday. Normally Wednesday is my day off, but this week I don't know about the evening this Wednesday, but I'll at least be on for the rising on this Wednesday. So and then by then, after we have our ministerial meeting, we'll try to plan things out for a while so that I'll be able to take a little break for a little while. But we thank you guys. We honor you again. Take care of one another, love on one another, respect one another, pray for one another. Continue to keep Sister Marion lifted up in prayer. When I find out more about the situation, we'll then be able to prayerfully she'll have a testimony no matter what it is. We'll praise you out for it. But thank you again, everybody. We appreciate you for being on, and we'll come back and talk to you guys soon. So take care. Shalom, everybody. And we'll see you soon. Thanks for being on. Appreciate you.